All right, let's dive into some Pioneer here, huh? So, basic idea in this deck is that we have both Rally the Ancestors and Return to the Ranks here at the top end of our curve. And the idea is that we're going to fill up our graveyard with cards like Stitcher Supplier and Satyr Wayfinder, and then we rally or return to play a bunch of creatures, including a Zulaport Cutthroat and Cruel Celebrant, to then sacrifice a bunch of our creatures using Woe Strider or Cartel Aristocrat to drain our opponent out with Cruel Celebrant or Zulaport Cutthroat triggers. Hey, Chris, thanks for the 16 months. Welcome back. A couple of my initial thought when glancing at the deck is the lack of Collected Company is definitely a decision here. It'll be interesting to see if we feel that in the it could definitely be that there's just like not enough fair matchups left in this format that like to really warrant wanting Collected Company still. So it'll be interesting to see if we feel like a catch-up card like Collected Company is something that we find ourselves wanting. This is like the deck Sam Black built for Modern, except it was really bad there. I mean, it might also be really bad here. We'll see. We played a couple of variations of Rally at the very start of this format, and I believe the ones we liked had Collected Company. And I'd have to go back and listen to past Jeff. The Moto queue is finally fully wrangled, I think. Including today's deck list, we are down to 5 Magic the Gathering Online decks, so the turnaround for any Magic Online deck should be a week thereabouts from here on out, I think is the goal. Thanks, Turtle. You too. I appreciate the 2/3 of a year. Which Grixis deck did I apply those points to? I don't remember offhand. Control F the queue. I believe it was Grixis Breach. Probably Grixis Breach. It's closest thing to competitive Grixis deck. The only times I've seen you enjoy Collected Company were when there were elves, the elves deck, and Mantis Rider Knuckleblade. Yep. You gotta do something sweet with it. Do you ever go back and watch decks if someone donates to have them play it again and make changes? Yeah. Yeah, all the time. In fact, whenever someone donates for a run back, like I play so many decks I can't just remember everything that I talk about, I always go back and watch the wrap-up segment. So, like, that thing I recommend other people do, like most of the things I recommend on this channel, I'm recommending that action because it's what I do. Like, I recommend when people want feedback on a deck that I've played not to ask me now. I say go back and listen to past Jeff because that's what I do when I need feedback on a deck that I'm about to play again. What's this one do again? Enter battlefield, put a 1 counter each creature you control. When a non-token creature you control dies, you get a 1/1 counter. I'm gonna bottom that. Hey, thanks for the 2/3 of a year, Apple Pies. Negative, thanks for the 1.5 years. Pretty big proponent of trying to practice what I preach. You can't bottom our Fun Hub. Sorry to break hearts. Having our Mana Confluence our second land tier against turn 1 basic mountain probably doesn't bode well for our hero. Sounds good, Zach. My general plan is that, so we're down to 5 Moto decks in the queue. If we don't get Magic Online submissions at the higher price, I'm going to cut Magic Online content back to 3 days a week, I think, and just fill in decks of my choosing on those days. But my loose plan is to only only keep doing Moto 5 days a week, assuming the queue stays full at the higher price tag. All right, we've got a Woe Strider in here. This probably has infinite food to escape that thing with on average, huh? So it'll be, yeah, I think it's a good strategy. Either I'll make slightly more income from the Moto decks that are mostly spews anyways, or there'll be decks that I choose to play, which seems like a win-win either way. People that submit decks will have faster turnaround, and if people aren't submitting decks, we'll do slightly less Magic Online, but we'll do decks that I care to play. Hey, Famalo, thank you for the brand new Prime support. I appreciate that. Welcome to Hooglandia. We're having a wonderful Wednesday wherever you're at in the world. Do you have any thoughts on the stimulus package that was passed early this morning? Do you have a link to the details or a summary of what passed? I'm not familiar. Did it pass already? I feel like if something passed, it would have been on my Twitter timeline, but I didn't see anything about that on my Twitter timeline when I woke up this morning. I was also like, it didn't pass yet. Okay, yeah, I thought it'd be like a really big deal. The Senate and the White House agreed, but the vote is later today. Okay, that makes sense. They have the votes, right? They have the votes. They have the votes. Do. I've not, Mr. Missouri. Am I sacking this Voice of Resurgence and just, like, starting to attack them with a 5/5 here? Probably not. Like, the 5/5 doesn't really get through their stuff. No buybacks for corporations, White House staff, and Congress, along with their relatives' businesses, cannot receive money. Does it still include a fund of money to be distributed at Trump's discretion with no transparency? So we'll sack this so we get to scry here rather than let them kill it with Wild Slash. Hey, Space Herring, thanks for the generosity. I appreciate it. I think I'm in for this, because not only does it let me play both the creatures out of my hand next turn, but the second white source is important if I draw Rally. I'm watching this from an actual forest. Upside of living in Finland is it's easy to isolate nature. Can you bump Temur, Sarkhan, and a Stark? I definitely can. Okay. There'll be oversight. Good. So they got the oversight right. What does it actually include for normal people is the second question. What is the actual? So we're gonna get Ember Cleaved here and die. I was kind of expecting Embercleave to happen. That's why I blocked the Giant. Kind of feel bad about not blocking Annex since that didn't happen. $1,200 checks for adults making under 75K last year, scaling to 100K, 500 per kid, and 600 per month for 4 months for adults. Hitting a couple more, one more land also means Woe Strider gets active. The $600 is unemployment insurance. Is that what UI stands for? Okay, so that'll be for people who are unemployed. That's good. That's mostly reasonable. Means testing on who gets it isn't stellar, but it's better than nothing. That should help a lot of people who need help. Yeah, I agree, Be Rich. Things like that. The means testing fails to account for regional cost differences in people's ability. Hey, and yeah, I miss Mr. Wilson too. I miss Flemmo as well. I'll get you a little bit of attention, and yeah, I got you. I don't want you to feel left out, feel like I don't love you. I mean, there are people that made it well in 2018 but are struggling in 2019. Yep. That's not how Republicans work, though. Means testing is important to them. You can use 2019 tax returns. Okay, that's good. Is a good thing to know. I'm going to double block the Annex this time and hope they don't have Cleave again. I guess I could just have a removal spell for one of my things here. Wow, they just have, like, Stone Cold Nothing. Okay, I'm going to stack these so my Hunted Witness token gets made first here. Man, if we didn't have this Mana Confluence, we might be winning this game. I feel like this game's pretty close because our lands keep hurting us. Yeah, I got one Rebel Master. Scary. They're going to attack with both of those next turn. So, I think I'm supposed to go Mana Confluence here and take 2 to escape a Woe Strider. I'm not, like, super excited about it, but I think it's the line. Gets me a 5/4 and a goat token here. In Brazil, the president made a public announcement that he is against isolation, asked for schools and all services to go back to normal, and he called the COVID just a little flu. Oh, God. That... I am really sorry for any people that live down there. That's... attitudes like that during this time should probably be treated as some type of war crime by the UN. That should probably be treated as some type of war crime by the UN. I'm gonna jump block one of the Rabble Masters. I guess I could trade with both. So this is going to trade, this will eat, these will trade, these will trade. I'm taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're probably just dead here. We just took too much for Mana Confluences. Yeah, super dead. In Brazil, the gangs are enforcing an 8 p.m. curfew in all the flavas, saying if the government won't do the right thing, organized crime will. That's wild, if that's true. Yep. 1,000 bits is $10, Liam's. Is correct. 100 bits is $1. Apparently, the government the president of Brazil announced that everyone there should go back to work and school should open up and nobody should isolate because it's just a little flu. Do you think Trump will be reelected after the corona crisis? I think there's probably a coin flip's chance that he gets reelected, yeah. Anybody saying that he's guaranteed to not get reelected, I think is not based in reality. They're underestimating how much hate and ignorance there is. I need 2 more cuts here. Maybe I'm supposed to go down another rally. I feel like I'm just supposed to bring in all my interaction here, because I can't really... Like, my linear plan isn't as good as theirs. God, I didn't notice there were 4 mana confluences in this mana base. That may or may not be correct in general, but it definitely really hurts in a matchup like this. Coin flip chance there are no... I'd be very surprised if there's no elections. I thought it was my understanding that if there isn't an election, the Speaker of the House becomes president. Is that not correct? Am I misremembering my civics lessons? Big Fig, thank you for the 2/3 of a year. I appreciate that. Welcome back. I believe there's different guidelines for the House and the Senate versus the presidency, Cypress. In order for that to be a thing, there would have to be, right? Feel free to cite a source if you believe I'm wrong. The solution is that they need to redefine restrictions around voting by mail nationally is what needs to happen before the fall. Wilder Nactyl, thank you for the half year. I appreciate that. Welcome back. It's a person in order of succession who isn't up for re-election that would be acting president. Okay. Trump is a very ridiculous person. Why is that why the people like him? Yeah, for the most part. I think for a lot of people, Trump embodies not only like the bigotry that they wish that they could display openly and on their outside, but he's the petty bully that a lot of them wish they could have been but couldn't be because generally speaking society would shun them for being as terrible as he is. Trump has a tendency to say the quiet parts loud. There are a lot of people out there who pretend to be decent people because they know society would shun them if they're not. Who they take pride in being able to support someone like Trump because he's an indecent person very loudly and there's no ramifications for his actions. It would be Chuck Grassley. Who is that? So kept a little bit of a speculative hand with no green mana. Three color mana base in this format are a tough sell. We've got 4 mana confluences in this deck. Is that the don't take medical advice from the person that stared directly at an Eclipse tweet? Hey, totally reasonable. Thanks for the 5 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. I'm gonna go ahead and jump block with this. let's move on. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Yeah, the red demigod is super powerful, just in multiple formats. I think there's a good chance this one doesn't age gracefully. If I look at the timeline, this deck was submitted to the deck queue at the beginning of February, almost. So that was kind of still back. When was Theros Beyond Death? Theros Beyond Death release date was January 24th. So yeah, this deck was submitted to the queue before we really knew what was happening to the format. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just not quite efficient enough to keep up. It would be neither Pence nor Pelosi nor Grassley. The Act of 1972 says that both houses work jointly to select someone in a temporary fashion. Sure. But the lower house would be empty, right? Because all those people are up for re-election every 2 years? Is that understanding correct? They would select someone before vacating. Okay, that makes sense. That is both logical and reasonable. Hopefully they're able to just pass legislation putting in more things surrounding voting by mail. That's ideally what happens. As legislation gets passed to require voting by mail be an option everywhere, and we just like have a normal election where people mail in ballots in the fall. That makes most sense, but will we do it? Yeah, so like that might happen because making sure the elections are able to happen safely or at all is in the best interest of the Republicans. And like they're evil, but they're self-serving. So I'd be kind of surprised if some type of reform like that doesn't happen because it's in their best interest to make sure elections can happen in the fall. Yeah, we'll see. That's a reason to maybe not do it too. I mean, like Trump's pushing to like open the country back up by Easter, so we'll see if like if nonsense like that happens, they might just like push a dangerous situation. They're a lawful evil party with a chaotic evil president. That's probably a pretty reasonable comparison. Blood sacrifice on the Easter holiday. Who says we're not a Christian nation? Yeah. Yeah. They're calling it the Republican trolley problem. You can stop the trolley at any time, but if you do, the trolley company loses money. Oh, it's so... Alright, are we dead? Feeling kind of dead. Like a mosh. Thanks for the tip. I appreciate it. Here's for Blue Devotion and Historic. Sounds good. You're lucky I'm quick, ain't you? Yeah, the best summary I heard of this whole mess that we're in is Trump was too stupid to realize that most people wouldn't blame the economy tanking on him based on a pandemic happening. But he was so afraid that people would blame him for that he then created real issues trying to cover that up, trying to make sure that didn't happen. So if he would have just been prepared and weathered out the drop that was inevitable with this and just responded appropriately instead of having a bunch of really stupid responses to try and save a stock market that was doomed to drop a bit, he might have actually had a reasonable response. He could have turned this disaster into a show of strength for himself. And instead, he was crippled by his typical very short-term thinking and inability to see past the end of the week. He's also such a habitual liar that he has trouble telling the truth even when it benefits. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that there's just like, it's like people who cheat at magic, right? Like, it's obviously the extremity is worse, but like there's people that cheat at magic that like, they just like, they're habitual about it, right? Like they can't not cheat. They just can't help themselves. Now the question here is, do I attack with Zulaport Cutthroat and offer it as a trade? I don't have anything to sack. I guess I have this to sack stuff. Yeah. Yeah, with the sack outlet, I think I hold this back. I don't really want to trade it for Rattle Chains. Wartime and crisis presidents win more than others when they actually deal with the crisis. Yeah. Historically speaking, that is correct. So I don't ever need double green in this deck, right? It's just double white. I already have that. I'll grab Godless Shrine. Yeah, correct, Marty. I think we'd have a hard time racing here regardless, but the fact that, like, this staggering insight is giving their creature lifelink seems like we're just going to be just pretty impossible. Thanks for the 15 months, Reginald. That was a little while. So just casual smack us for 6, draw 3, no big deal. So I'm curious now that they've happened for a little bit. Have any subs in chat watched any of the Channel Fireball Magic Fest stuff content, or watched the content or played in any of the events? And if so, how has playing or watching been? Hey, thanks for the tip, Full Metal. I'll say thanks for openly talking about politics on a channel. You caused me to look into issues and give a damn. Put this towards something you want to play sooner. Will do, Full Metal. Thanks for the support. Sounds good, McBeggins. So, very real chance that they have a Spell Queller here. They have 7 cards in their hand. They discarded a hand size last turn. Yeah, the downtime whilst playing matches is a little bit unfortunate. They might actually be dead here, huh? So I have 2 of these. I can get an attack in here. I don't want to attack Woe Strider into a blocker here at this point. Well, that's unfortunate, Churro. So if I attack with these, they take at least 1. They go to 16. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think they're actually dead. I don't want to attack with Woe Strider here, because if I attack with Woe Strider and they flash in a blocker, I have to sacrifice things before combat damage happens. Yeah, the lack of an official replay client, an official spectator client is a big drawback. It's our 17-month Sikta. Okay, sweet. Games like this make me wonder, is it correct to only have 6 Blood Artist effects in here? Like, there's only 2 Zulaport Cutthroats in this deck, and I kind of feel like the games where we see multiple of them are much better for us than games where we only see 1, huh? I mean, like, all of it ideally needs to happen, Metalix, but yeah. At the very least, if they added a spectator mode, it would allow them to have these third-party tournaments be slightly more watchable from a coverage perspective. I mean, like, digital Magic tournaments are superior from a content perspective to paper tournaments in almost every single way. The content's just way more accessible, right? So I feel like I'm supposed to trim Rally here because they have Mausoleum Wanderer and probably some return. Return's a little bit easier to play around Mausoleum Wanderer because it has Convoke at least. I hope so, Wandering Murloc. If this situation doesn't cause them to make that a priority, nothing will. opponent in the tank about how to sideboard, apparently. Or their internet disconnected, you know, one of the two. Keep this. It's a little bit land heavy, but it has all my colors, and I've got both a piece of interaction and a card that's like anti-interaction. Yeah, I mean, like, I'd like to believe in a world, New Genesis, where like a tournament mode is something that was like on their map / radar to begin with. So, like, I'd hope that it isn't, like, that big of a pivot to have it happen. But that could also be wishful thinking. There's a very, very real chance that just, like, it wasn't on the map anytime soon. Yeah, if you could just, like, pick any match you wanted in an event and just spectate whatever you want, that would be really neat. Deckenstone. Yep. Well, we're no longer clueless, at least. It's a decent pickup. We'll play this. We'll play a 1-drop. I mean, I believe they have a loose roadmap published, Admiral. If you look back in the weekly updates, they don't have like an easily clickable link, but I actually don't think tournament mode was on their roadmap. Speaking of Mythgard, did they get their tournament mode rolled out? I know they had a little bit of a delay on their initial targeted goal, but did that happen? Hey, Tasty Wonton, thanks for 17 months. Welcome back. Yeah, remember simpler times, Marty, simpler times. Yeah, it just depends, New Genesis, because, like, people, like, in a time where there's not a pandemic, like, people paying $25 to play in qualifiers like that with the types of prizes that they have, that's probably not something you feel constantly. Or maybe it is. Magic players are pretty degenerate. Yeah, Voice would be a sweet historic card. I agree. We're super dead, right? I just, like, don't have any draws here. Hand is all blanks. So, okay, 7. Didn't really pan out for us. Have we won a match yet? No, we're going into game 3 of this. It was only match 2. We're going into game 3 of the second one. I've been starting a little bit later in the mornings. I haven't been going live till like 8:15, 8:20. I don't know to what you're referring to, Beansy. Party Rank, thanks for the 3rd of a year. Welcome back. Shaman Exile, thanks for the 20 months. Historic needs Bloodbraid. Yeah, that would be that'd be a fun one. I think putting format staples that just, like, aren't quite playable in Modern, but are, like, iconic cards that people love into Historic's a good plan. That's why Knight of the Reliquary That's why Knight of the Reliquary is really awesome. Like, such a good addition, because it's just like a super iconic card that a lot of people love playing. Gunder JJ, thank you for the brand new Prime support. Welcome to Oglandia. Have a good one wherever you're at. I've been jamming Historic next week for the virtual FNM on Arena. Nice. Glad to hear more folks enjoying Historic. Deck the halls with balls of Voice of Resurgence. Fa la 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 la. Now, in case there's another deck in stone in my future, I'm going to go ahead and play Cartel Aristocrat out here. Is Thraben Shaman okay in any format? Yeah, it's legal in Pioneer and it's not really playable. Yeah, Thraben Shaman's only good when there's original fetch lands that are legal. Onslaught, Shards of Alara, that's those type of fetch lands. Zendikar. Yeah, Historic has a lot of potential. There are a lot of potentially really awesome cards that people love playing that just aren't quite playable in other formats that could find homes there, I think. Alright, they shocked in. Do we just assume they're on Spellqueller here? Yeah, I agree, Wandering Murloc. I think I'm just going to crack a clue to try and draw a land or a 1-drop here, rather than play a threat out into their Spellqueller. Yeah, I agree, Zajad. I also think, like we talked about before, I think the thing that's going to make Historic better than formats like Pioneer in large part is if they continue to have a willingness to manage the format. And managing the format means not only banning things that are problems, but giving things that were a problem previously more of a chance. And so far, it's been they've indicated that's what they're looking to do. The fact that they gave us Field of the Dead back instead of just banning it bodes well for the format overall, in my opinion. Hey, thanks for the happy year, Jack Frost. Welcome back. Down to 8 here. Rest in peace. So, rest in peace probably means we're dead. So for those not familiar, Rest in Peace is a replacement effect, so my creatures can't die. Oh, I should have sacked this in response to turn this into a lifelinker, because dies triggers don't happen now. And honestly, this is a pretty big problem with decks like what we're playing right now, is that our deck, the overall power level is kind of low, and we're susceptible to sideboard heat cards like this. So, like, generally speaking, when your deck gets hosed by powerful sideboard cards, you want the deck itself to be powerful enough in other games to, like, make up for that downside. But, like, I feel like our linear power level isn't high enough to offset also randomly getting hosed by stuff like this. Yeah, I agree, Sajad. Yeah, Field of the Dead being unbanned was fine for the format, in my opinion, it seems like. And then we're just in at this point, right? They're at 8. Oh, they're actually just attacking us for 8. Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna give it one more shake here. God, I think I actually, clearing through these Pioneer decks that have been on the backlog, I bought 100 tickets, gosh, at the start of the month. And like, I'm down to 14. Each of these is like 2.5. So I have like, this is like 30, this is like 40 tickets. So I'm like down half. I have new player packs. None of these are very useful. God, that alternate art is great though. It's funny to me how they put alter art on cards that just like aren't playable in formats. Yeah, I agree with me. The green black Citadel's been sweet too. There's a lots of love in the format. It's definitely my favorite. I mentioned this earlier in the stream, but people are in and out all the time. So as of this deck submission today, I'm down to just 5 Moto decks in the deck queue. And my plan is, if there isn't strong interest from people to continue submitting Magic Online decks, I'm going to cut Magic Online back to 3 days a week so we can fit in more historic content. So if you're someone that's interested in submitting Magic Online formats, the turnaround time is going to be much faster for them since I increased the pricing. But part of the reason I increased the pricing was to discourage some amount of submissions. Just because a lot of submissions have been a spew lately in terms of Moto dollars. Historic on the flip side is getting more submissions than I can play at the moment, so definitely going to continue ramping up what we're doing surrounding that one. Turn 1 Mana Confluence. Let's see if that costs us more. Port Town could be more spirits. That is true, Pomoyne. So I updated the verbiage on my website. Tier 3 subs at the base are only good for arena formats moving forward. And I know that that'll cause some people to downgrade their subs, but again, my ideal goal is to just be mostly arena at some point. If the Mono deck queue gets fully empty, my personal plan is to fill in some Moto decks of my choosing, things like Kiki Cord. Yeah, definitely a Turtle Wiz. I'm basically going to entertain any semi-tiered deck at this point. So I've loosened up my restrictions on both Legacy and Modern. I was more strict on what Legacy and Modern decks I was taking for a little bit because Pioneer was really popping. But with Pioneer, like, thoroughly whelmed at this point, just like anything's up for grabs for anybody that wants to pay the slightly higher price point. For reference, the pricing for subscribers for Moto decks is now $50. Because, again, my goal is to primarily focus on arena, but still do a small amount of variety. Is Spirits again, just with Censor. Arazamil, thank you for the 13 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Maybe I should have led on Cruel Celebrant. I kind of wasn't expecting Spellquiller, though. Dr. Mr. Punny, speaking of tier 3 subs, thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it. Welcome back. Yeah, that's probably a good line. If it's a combo deck or a Chalice deck in Legacy, those are pretty much all fine. Both of those archetypes are great. Had to leave a stream where chat was advocating against hate speech regulations, so I had to come to my liberal safe space. We are certainly a liberal safe space. We're doing all right, Southern Wizard. I'd have to look. I think it's probably been, we're closing in on 2 weeks since Christy and I were out. Or out of the house. Christy has a OB appointment for the baby on April 3rd, I think. And I think our plans are just to stay in until then. And then she'll make a grocery run when she goes to her OB appointment as well. Just like minimize the total number of times out of the house. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weather getting a little bit better because we're fortunate to have a backyard. So like, once the weather's a little bit nicer, the kids will at least be able to play in the backyard. Alaskan Penguin, thanks for the brand new Prime support. I appreciate that. Welcome. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday wherever you're at in the world. Stay safe out there. You definitely can, Dr. Mr. Bunny. Do you have a specific... Is there already a Sultai control in there? Or is that a build around for Sultai control? Because I can definitely do that. Yes, greens on greens. Both Declan's daycare and Jake's grade school have been sending home recommendations for things to do. In fact, part of the reason why, with Ashiok at the top end, got it. That's probably a given, but I'll make a note. Part of the reason why I'm taking off 2 days during the week now is because I want to be able to do school stuff with Jake and Declan 2 days during the week, and then Christy's doing stuff with them on the weekend, and then on days like this, we're both just like kind of juggling them. So we're dead. And like here, we like could have drawn an untapped land, but like untapped land, we don't actually have untapped lands in our deck that would let us cast this, right? Oh, we have exactly basic planes. Yeah, I don't have a sack outlet. We're just dead in the air again. I'm going to go ahead and be done with this deck. We played 2 matches, which is my guaranteed minimum. Decks like this just aren't competitive in Pioneer anymore. Another part of the reason why I upped the price is to discourage people from submitting medium things a little bit more, or if they are medium, I get a little bit more support for them. I feel bad that this deck waited so long to be played when we had the big rush of Pioneer stuff. This might have been reasonable a month and a half ago when it was submitted, when we like weren't really knowing what Theros Beyond Death was going to do to the format, but like in a post Theros Beyond Death world, in a more optimized format, this deck just, I describe a lot of decks like this that get submitted honestly in every format. This archetype is just a good example of it's not linear enough to race people down, and it's not interactive enough to keep up with people that are faster than it. And it just kind of flops around and doesn't do a whole lot. Our mana base in this build was also especially painful for us. I don't know if you could reasonably build the 3-color mana base with less mana confluence, still cast your spells consistently. It's definitely a tough ask in this format without fetches, but that didn't do us any favors either. My 10-hour workday consists of 3 hours working and 7 hours of watching your YouTube streams. God bless. Well, thanks for supporting me and keeping me here making stuff, Alaskan. All right, we are going to fire up some standard to start our arena segment and then some historic afterwards. I'm going to do a quick ad roll while I get everything flipped over. When we get back, we're going to kick off with a sweet Jund Torbrand deck. BRB.